It is 30 minutes past 7 in the morning, and you are listening to Moin Uddin so on Facebook and YouTube, and this is Motivational series. I'm Moin, and very good morning. I hope your morning started in a good note. So, what I'm doing is I've started reading a book, TrueLove, a practice for awakening the heart, written by Thich Nhat Hanh, and today is the last day of this book. Today I'm going to read chapter 15 and chapter 16. Chapter 15 says everybody should practice mindfulness, and chapter 16 says getting rid of our concepts. I believe it will give you a positive energy to do anything good in your life. So I'm going to start chapter 15. Everybody should practice mindfulness. Relief, peace, well-being, joy, and better relations with others will be possible if we practice mindfulness in our everyday life. I am convinced that everybody can practice mindfulness, even politicians, political parties, even the Congress. This is a body that holds the responsibility for knowing the nation's situation well, and knowledge of this kind requires the practice of looking deeply. If our elected officials are not calm enough, do not have enough concentration, how can they see things deeply? If they are not able to listen to the people or to their colleagues in the Congress, if they are not able to speak with loving speech, then there will be much left to be desired. It is necessary for politicians to practice calm, to practice stopping, and to practice looking deeply. You who are journalists, writers, citizens, you have the right and the duty to say to those you have elected that they must practice mindfulness, calm, deep listening, and loving speech. This is a universal thing taught by all religions. In Buddhism, we call this samatha, stopping, concentration, calm. When calm is there, we are able to practice deep looking. Let us imagine that the members of the Congress practiced mindful breathing and walking, deep listening, and calm loving speech. As it is, every time they convene, they quarrel and shoot poison arrows, because very few of those people are capable of calming, of practicing loving speech. The situation is very tense. There is a great deal of hatred and anger and discrimination. How is it possible in such a state for people to practice deep looking with the aim of achieving a deep knowledge of the nation? So it is necessary to practice mindfulness. It could be Buddhist or a Christian, but it is necessary to bring mindfulness to our everyday life. If you are a journalist, a teacher, or a filmmaker, you should practice mindfulness for the sake of your own calm and for your own happiness, but also for that of other people as well. Because we need your calm, your compassion, your understanding. We should be mindful as individuals, but also as a community, as a family, as a nation. Okay, that's the end of the chapter 15. Now I'm going to start chapter 16. And the chapter 16 says, getting rid of our concepts. In Buddhism, the greatest relief or solace that we can obtain is that of touching nirvana, where non-fear has become something that is part of everyday life. We have a great fear inside ourselves. We are afraid of everything, of our death, of being alone, of change, and the practice of mindfulness helps you to touch non-fear. It is only here that you can experience total relief, total happiness. Nirvana is the foundation of our being. Just as water is considered to be the essence of all waves, in the beginning, we think that we have a beginning and an end, a birth and a death. And we might think that before our birth we were not there, and after our death we will not be there. And we get caught up in the concept of being and non-being. Together, let us look deeply at a wave in the ocean. It lives its life of a wave, but it lives the life of water at the same time. If the wave were able to turn toward itself and touch its substance, which is water, then it would be able to attain non-fear and nirvana. We live with the concepts of birth and death, of being and non-being, of unity and plurality. We have not had the occasion to touch the ultimate dimension of our being. This is nirvana, which can be translated as extinction. But extinction of what? Of all emotions, including the notions of birth, death, being and non-being. Birth and death cannot touch the bodhisattva, nor the wave once it has realized that at the same time it is water. Concepts such as birth and death, being and non-being, might in some sense be applied to waves. As far as water is concerned, these qualifications cannot describe the nature of water. When we speak of birth, of death, of being and non-being, we are talking in terms of phenomena. In Buddhism, we call this the historical dimension. When we talk about waves, we are in the historical dimension. But when we talk about water, we are in the ultimate dimension in which we cannot speak of birth and death, of being and non-being. The wave might think that before its birth it was not there, and that after its death it will not be there. But these are notions, concepts, that cannot be applied in the dimension of the ultimate. The Buddha declared the following: There is a world, but there is no birth and there is no death. There is no high and no low, no being and no non-being. If that world is not there, how could the world of birth and death, the world of being and non-being be possible? He was talking about the ultimate dimension. He was talking about the water. But all he said was a few words because we cannot use concepts and words with regard to the ultimate. When we talk about the theology of God is dead, this means that the notion of God must be dead in order for God to reveal himself as a reality. The theologians, if they only use concepts, words and not direct experience, are not very helpful. The same goes for nirvana, which is something to be touched and lived and not discussed and described. We have notions that distort truth, reality. A Zen master said the following to the large assembly: My friend, every time I use the word Buddha, I suffer. I'm allergic to it. Every time I do it, I have to go to the bathroom and rinse my mouth 3 times in succession. He said this in order to help his disciples not to get caught up in the notion of Buddha. The Buddha is one thing, but the notion of Buddha is another. Another Zen master said this: If you meet the Buddha on your way, you must kill him. You have to kill the notion of Buddha so that the real Buddha can be revealed to you. That day, there was a very solid person in the assembly, a monk who stood up and said these words: Master, every time you say the word Buddha, I have to go to the river and clean my ears 3 times in succession. So they understood each other perfectly. We must not get caught up in the trap of notions and concepts. Fear is born from our ignorance, from our concepts regarding life, death, being and non-being. If we are able to get rid of all these concepts by touching the reality within ourselves, then non-fear will be there and the greatest relief will become possible. For the Buddhist, it is necessary to transcend the notions of birth and death, because those notions do not apply to reality. This is equally true with regard to the notions of being and non-being. For the Buddhist, To be or not to be is not really the question. The true question is whether we have enough concentration, enough mindfulness, enough practice to touch the foundation of being, that is nirvana. That is why we should do what we have to do to make this meditation of looking deeply a matter of everyday life. When we are eating, when we are drinking, when we are sleeping, and one day we will be able to touch the ultimate reality that is in us. Nirvana is not something that we should search for, because we are nirvana, just as the wave is already water. The wave does not have to search for water, because water is the very substance of the wave. Living deeply makes it possible to touch nirvana, our ultimate reality, the world of no birth and no death, and all our fear will be taken away because of this direct knowledge of our true nature. I wish you all of you to have a brother or sister who is a serious practitioner of the Dharma, a spiritual friend who possesses solidity, joy, freedom, understanding, and love. Then your practice will be much more enjoyable because you will have the support of a sangha, of a practice community, of a being, of brothers and sisters in the Dharma. So yeah, that's the end of the 16th chapter as well, and that was the last chapter. So you may be wondering who is Thich Nhat Hanh. Okay, I'm going to tell about him. Thich Nhat Hanh is a world-renowned Jain monk, poet, and peace activist who has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Born in Vietnam, for the past 30 years he has lived in exile in France, where he founded the monastic community of Plum Village. He has also established Maple Forest Monastery in Vermont and Deer Park Monastery in California. Thich Nhat Hanh travels actively through North America and Europe, teaching the art of mindful living to people of all backgrounds. He is the author of numerous books, including the best-selling The Miracle of Mindfulness, Peace is Every Step, Anger, and Living Buddha and Living Christ. So yeah, that was about him. So thank you so much for listening. My name is Moin, and you are listening to Motivational series on Moin Uddin on Facebook. You can subscribe my channel Moin Uddin on YouTube, as well as you can like my page Moin Uddin Facebook page as well. So thank you so much for listening. That's the end of this book as well. From tomorrow, I think I might continue the other book, and that book will be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So yeah, this book is also really good. So I have read it. So I think it will be really beneficial if I read it for you. And tonight, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to read a book, The 5 Rules of Rich. So this is the translated version. It is translated in Nepali, so I'm going to read it tonight at 9 p.m. So you have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for giving me a company. Yeah, have a wonderful day ahead. Bye.